Welcome back to Community Bible Church's Kids Class. Thank you to Bible Visuals International for the use of this story. Now for this week's portion of Salvador of Spain. "We are moving, son," his father said firmly as he entered the kitchen with an empty box. "Your older brothers will stay here in this home because they have jobs here in St. Blas. But you and the other children are moving to Coslada." "Please, Dad, let me stay in St. Blas," Salva begged. "I'm sorry, Salvador, but you have to come with us. You'll make new friends in Coslada," his father assured him. "I'll never have friends like I have here in St. Blas," Salva thought bitterly. But to his surprise, he found a new group of guys who, like him, had decided that being on the street was better than sitting in school. Moving to Coslada was not as bad after all. But Salvador's hours of roaming the streets ended quickly. "Salva, I have something to tell you," his father announced one evening. "I have found a job for you in a restaurant down the street. The hours are long. You start at 9 o'clock in the morning and may have to stay till midnight. But you will be learning a trade and earning some money. Your mother and I think it will be good for you and will keep you out of trouble." Early the next morning, Salva was at the restaurant listening to his new boss. "Salva, you will serve drinks at the bar. There are lots of different kinds, so Miguel here will help you learn. And remember, we have to keep our customers happy." Salva grinned. He was good at cracking jokes and making people laugh. Maybe he was going to like this job. The men urged Salva to try the liquor he served to them. "Salva, this drink is my favorite," one of the older men at the bar would say, sipping from a mug Salva had just handed him. "Why don't you mix one for yourself?" Another would say, "No, mine is better. Try this one, Salva." Soon Salvador knew the taste of different drinks. At times, he drank so much that he couldn't think or talk clearly. "You're getting drunk, Salva, just like the rest of us," the men called out, then laughed at Salvador's unsteady walk. Salva laughed with them. Getting drunk was kind of fun. His troubles didn't seem important. In fact, nothing seemed important except having a good time. He rather liked getting drunk until he woke up the next morning with a terrible throbbing in his head. Salva didn't like that, but he did like stealing money from the cash register and cigarettes from behind the counter. Free liquor, extra money, and free cigarettes. This job isn't so bad after all, he thought. Salva visited his two older brothers in St. Blas whenever he could. One day, Jose and Javi were smoking cigars that looked different. "What are you smoking, Jose?" asked Salva. "You haven't tried this yet? Here, it's marijuana. Makes you feel great. You can see, feel, and hear everything in a totally new way. Marijuana makes you forget about anything that bothers you." "Sounds good to me," said Salva. He took the cigarette Jose handed him and began to puff. Soon he began to feel very calm, happy, and almost silly. "I like this," he said to Jose. "I can smoke marijuana all day." "It costs money," Jose replied, "but you have plenty of that. Help yourself." So Salva smoked and the marijuana made him forget all the yelling and fighting at home. As he puffed, his memories of lying about skipping school and stealing from restaurants faded away, plus all the other memories of disobeying his parents and his teachers, and all the other times of treating people meanly. Something the priest said so long ago flicked in his mind. A person must pay for his sins. Salva felt as if a huge weight was pressed down on his shoulders. There was no way that he, Salvador, could pay for his sins, not with a list of sins stretched as far back as he could remember. And then that wonderful feeling from the marijuana overcame, and his sins were no longer important. On later visits, Jose and Javi gave Salvador different kinds of pills and powders. They make you forget your troubles even more than marijuana did, Salva. They urged him to take them. The only problem, Salva, is that the high lasts only for a while. You have to keep taking drugs, Salvador, to keep the high feeling. And the drugs cost money. Salva began selling drugs not only to his friends, but also to his brothers. But still, he needed more money. How do you get your money? He asked his brothers one day. Come with us tonight and we'll show you, they told him. Jose, Javi, and Salva waited until late evening when the street was still. Quietly, they left the apartment and walked stealthily down the street. Jose leaned over and whispered to Salva, "We want to find a car that's in the shadows or out of sight. When we find one, Javi will be the lookout for us and stand far enough away so that he can watch the entire street to see if anyone is coming. Then you and I will get to work." It didn't take long to find a car. Salva crouched in the shadows as Jose, making almost no sound, worked to remove the hubcaps. Moving quickly to the front of the car, he carefully unscrewed the headlights and passed them to Salva, who laid them on the ground. One of the headlights fell over and rolled on the gravel. The boys froze. Then Jose quickly took a wire from his pocket and wiggled it into the door until it unlocked. "Open the door, Salva," he whispered. "We want the radio cassette player." The job was finished in less than 10 minutes. Jose glanced at Salva, smiling. "We got ourselves some more drug money when we sell these headlights, hubcaps, and radio cassette player. Nothing to it." "That was great," Salva whispered. He didn't want to think how the person who owned the car would feel the next morning. All that really mattered was that they had more money to buy drugs. By now, Salva was using a different kind of drug, a drug he inserted with a needle, heroin. Heroin gave him a warm, pleasant feeling at first. Then the sleepiness that made him feel as if he could hardly hold his head up. He felt as if he had no troubles at all. But when the sleepy time ended, Salva had to shoot more heroin within 12 hours, or he would begin shaking and having chills, sweating, fever, runny eyes and runny nose, vomiting, twitching, and hurting muscles. Salva had to keep taking heroin, or he would be sick. He was hooked or addicted to the drug at the age of 16, and he did not know anyone who had gotten off drugs once he was hooked. Salva continued to work and to steal and to take drugs. One night, he discovered that the police had raided his brother's apartment and arrested everyone they found there. Javi and Jose spent time in jail. "I won't get caught," Salva told himself. "I'm too smart to go to jail." Salva was 18 now and seldom went home. He rarely saw his father. But on one visit home, his father suggested, "Salva, I think it's time that you joined the army." "The army?" Salva exploded. "I don't want to join the army." "You're 18 now. All Spanish men are required to spend time in the army. You won't be able to get a decent job until you do." Salva thought about his father's suggestion for days and days. His father was right. On the army base outside of Madrid, Salva continued taking and selling drugs. He liked what drugs did for him, and he liked the power that selling drugs gave him. "You can always depend on Salva getting this stuff," his buddy said as he took their money. In time, though, he was caught and sent to jail for 3 months. But even that didn't stop him from taking and selling drugs when he was released from jail. When Salva got out of the army, his father decided to help him and Jose start a restaurant. Salva had experience at the bar, and Jose was a cook. "I'm willing to put some money in to help you get started," their father promised. So Salva and Jose opened their restaurant, and they did well, except for one problem: drugs. Both brothers needed more money than they were being paid for working, so they started doing what they already had lots of experience doing: stealing. They stole from the cash register while at work, and late at night, after the restaurant closed, they stole from cars on the streets. They were almost caught several times. "We ought to be careful," they told each other. Months went by. Salva's father began to wonder why the restaurant didn't seem to be making any money. Finally, he had to ask them. Early one morning, he walked into the restaurant. "Jose, Salva, what's going on here? Why don't you seem to be making any profit?" Jose looked at Salva. Salva looked at Jose. Then Jose's face grew very serious. "Dad, we've been spending the money on drugs." "Drugs? Not drugs!" Their father's face was pale. Salva spoke quickly. Jose may think he has a problem with drugs, but I don't. I'm just fine." Their father shook his head as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Drugs? My 2 boys on drugs?" Tears rolled down his cheeks. Jose and Salva looked at each other. They felt awful to see their strong father crying. "Dad, it's not your fault. Other people have kids on drugs. We'll get out of it somehow." But their father still looked as if his whole world had fallen apart. "Jose, Salva, I will help you. I will do whatever I can to help you be free of drugs." "Oh, my boys, if I only had known sooner." A few days later, their father told them that he had made a doctor's appointment for them. Sitting outside the doctor's office with their father, Jose and Salva tried to look at magazines. Finally, it was their turn. "What can I do for you?" asked the doctor as the 3 of them walked into his office. "Well," Salva's father said, clearing his throat, "my 2 sons seem to have picked up a drug habit. They're both addicted to heroin." "Heroin?" The doctor's eyebrows raised sharply. "Drug addicts?" He paused for a moment, then spoke nervously. I'm afraid I can't see them. There's nothing I can do to help them." "You can't see them? You're a doctor. Surely you can help them," their father pleaded. "You can do something for them, can't you?" The doctor stood up. He would not look at Jose and Salva, only at their father. "As I said before, I cannot see them. There's no help for a person addicted to drugs." That's where our story is going to end this week. Community Bible Church would like to thank the talented people that gave us this story. Please come back next week for another part of Salvador of Spain.